Before the cheering crowds arrive, before banners snap in the wind, before the thunder of hooves shakes the ground, there is silence. A field lies open in the dim light of morning, still wrapped in mist. The tournament ground, so often alive with voices and spectacle, is at this hour a place of calm. Along the edges, under canvas pavilions, knights tend to their armor. There is no shouting, no clash of combatantly, the soft and steady rhythm of preparation. A gauntlet lifted, its metal joints brushed with oil, breastplate polished until it reflects the pale sky. The sounds are subtle, the faint clink of steel against stone, the whisper of cloth rubbing over plate. The quiet sighs of men focus not on glory, but on care. It is said that lances, those long weapons of the lists, were often carved of ash wood. Not by chance, but by design, for ash, when struck with force, would splinter and shatter cleanly. Broken lance was safer, its fragments scattering rather than piercing. Even in battle's mimicry, safety was sought. Even in contests of strength, there was thought given to gentleness. Now in this early hour, you can imagine those lances stacked neatly, their wooden shafts smooth, their tips capped with steel. They rest in rows, awaiting the contests to come. But for now, they are quiet. Just wood, just stillness. The knight bends over his shield, tracing the painted crest with a cloth. He works slowly, reverently, as though the act itself is a prayer. Another adjusts the straps of his helm, listening to the soft creak of leather. Their movements are unhurried, deliberate, almost meditative. Around them, the world itself seems hushed. A bird calls faintly, then falls silent. The breeze stirs, carrying with it the smell of wet earth and crushed grass. The mist drifts like a veil, wrapping the empty lists in white. You are here with them, unseen but welcome, sharing in the quiet. No crowd presses in on you, no noise disrupts the air. There is only preparation, steady and calm. The knights breathe deeply, and so do you. The rhythm of metal, of breath, of silence, this is the music of the morning. And as you listen, you feel yourself sinking deeper, calmer, safer. The field is wide, yet it feels enclosed by stillness. The wooden barriers of the lists stretch in neat lines, pale and damp with dew. They await the pounding of hooves, the splintering of lances, but, for now, they are silent fences touched only by the slow caress of mist. Beneath the striped tents, colors muted in the gray morning, squires move carefully. They carry buckets of water, small hammers, brushes of stiff bristle. The sounds they make are soft, like the background murmurs of a lullaby. One squire dips a rag in water, wrings it with patient fingers, then runs it over a helmet. The droplets fall, tiny bells against the packed earth. Another tightens a strap, the buckle clicking into place with a muted note, like a pebble striking gently against stone. The knights do not speak much. Words are rare, unnecessary. Each knows the ritual of preparation, each follows it with devotion. A knight draws a whetstone slowly along the edge of a sword knot for battle. Not to wound, but to keep it true, to honor the craft of steel. The rasp is low, steady, like the sound of waves slipping back across sand. Far in the distance, a rooster calls, its cry softened by the heavy air. The horse stamps once in its tether, the thud cushioned by straw. The world is waking, yet here it does so with reverence. You can almost smell the mingling scents. Iron and oil, fresh hay, the faint sweetness of wood smoke from a fire gone to embers in the night. Together they weave an atmosphere of warmth and safety, as if the earth itself is tucking you beneath a blanket. And then listen, there it is. The faint clink of metal against stone. A gauntlet rests upon the ground while its owner polishes the plates of his arm. Each time the steel touches, it gives off a muted chime. Not harsh, not loud, but soft, ringing once before fading into silence. The sound repeats, again and again, until it becomes rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. The heartbeat of the lists. The heartbeat of calm before the storm. You breathe in time with it. In and out. In and out. Each breath polishing the air within you. Each exhale letting go of noise, of thought, of heaviness. You are in step with the morning, perfectly balanced in stillness. The sky above the field is pale, a soft silver canvas with faint strokes of cloud. The sun has not yet risen high, but a tender glow spreads across the horizon, washing the mist in hues of pearl and gold. It feels gentle, protective, like a curtain drawn half closed to shield the world from harshness. The horses shift now and then, their breath misting in the cool air. They do not stamp impatiently. Instead, they stand in quiet strength, the sound of leather reins creaking faintly as they move. One shakes its mane, releasing a soft ripple of sound, like dry reeds swaying in wind. A squire pats its flank, a rhythmic motion that steadies both beast and boy. Armor rests upon racks beside the tents, each piece aligned with care. Breastplates curve like mirrored shells, greaves lie in pairs like silver rivers, helms gleam with polished pride. They are not merely tools, they are symbols, carefully kept, respected, and in this early hour, they shine not for applause, but for the peace of readiness. A knight kneels upon the ground, one knee pressed to earth, the other lifted beneath his shield. He closes his eyes, hands folded, lips moving in silent prayer. Perhaps he asks for strength, perhaps for calm, perhaps only for the safety of those who ride with him. His words do not break the stillness, they flow into it, a quiet thread woven into the fabric of the morning. Nearby, another knight runs his palm along the length of an ashwood lance, smooth, light, but sturdy. He knows well why ash is chosen. When struck with force, it does not splinter into jagged spears, but breaks into harmless shards. Even in contests of might, mercy finds its way. He tests the balance of the weapon, then rests it gently back among its brothers. The clatter is soft, more whisper than noise, like sticks laid upon damp ground. All around, you sense the patience of this place. Nothing is hurried, nothing is loud. Even the smallest actions, the brushing of dust from a shield, the cinching of a buckle, the clink of metal carefully set down, echo like lullabies, coaxing your mind to ease your body to rest. The field holds its breath, and you breathe with it. Beyond the pavilions, the grass stretches in wide swaths, its blades bent beneath the weight of dew. The droplets glisten faintly, tiny mirrors catching the dim morning light. As a breeze drifts across the field, they tremble, then slide gently down like pearls rolling from a string. The air is fresh, cool, carrying the faint sweetness of early flowers hidden among the grass. A squire crouches near a whetstone, turning a dagger slowly, carefully. The scrape is soft, steady, never hurried. Each stroke is deliberate, almost like breathing forward, back, forward, back. His young face is intent, but calm, focused not on battle, but on precision, on care. The sound of stone against steel hums low, soothing like a lullaby whispered without words. Nearby, a knight lifts his breastplate, turning it so the light catches the curve. He rubs a cloth in slow circles, polishing away the faint traces of yesterday's dust. Each movement is quiet, unbroken. The cloth whispers over metal, and when he pauses, the faint ring of the steel settling on the stand lingers, gentle like a bell toll heard from far away. The horses shift again, their tails brushing lightly against their flanks. The sound soft as reeds stirred by water. One exhales in a long sigh, the air rumbling low through its throat before fading into silence. The knight at its side murmurs something a wordless sound, perhaps, but steady and reassuring. The horse lowers its head, eyelids drooping as if it, too, is soothed by the unhurried rhythm of the morning. The mist curls low across the lists, spilling between the wooden barriers like smoke. It does not hide the field, but softens it, wrapping edges in gentleness. Even the tall lances standing in their racks seem hushed, their points aimed skyward as if saluting the quiet heavens. And then another sound joins, the faintest clinking of metal against stone. A knight adjusts his gauntlet, where it rests upon the earth. The steel touches lightly, rings once, then stills. Another piece of armor shifts, adding its note to the quiet song. Together, they create a rhythm, a music of patience, unhurried, soothing. You listen, you breathe. The clinking becomes your lullaby, pulling you deeper, loosening the last knots of thought. The tournament has not begun. It may never begin. For now, all is preparation, and in that preparation, you find perfect rest. In one corner of the field, a knight sits upon a low wooden stool. His helmet rests upon his knees, its surface catching the faintest gleam of light. He runs a cloth slowly around the curve of the visor, then across the crest, careful, unhurried.
Oh.
Each circle of his hand is deliberate, each stroke erasing the dimness of night, replacing it with quiet shine. He hums as he works, not a tune of triumph, but a low, even note so soft that it almost blends into the morning air. A squire nearby kneels with a bucket, dipping strips of linen into cool water. He wrings them gently, the drops pattering back into the pail with a sound like rain falling on stone. He lays the damp cloths across pieces of leather, softening them for straps. The smell of wet leather rises faintly, earthy and grounding. His fingers move with care, weaving and binding, making sure each strap will hold without strain. Another knight tests the weight of his shield. He lifts it slowly, rotates it, then lowers it with a muted thud against the grass. The sound is cushioned, soft, almost like the dull beat of a drum far away. He presses his palm against the painted surface, tracing the emblem faded from years of service, yet proud still. His touch lingers, not of vanity, but of reverence. The air holds a curious balance now, stillness, yet expectancy. The lists are empty, but the field feels alive with attention. Every creak of leather, every clink of chain, every sigh of breath gathers together, forming a harmony that settles deep into you. In the distance, bells begin to toll softly, faintly. Not yet for ceremony, but for the morning hour. Their notes drift across the mist like ripples across a pond. Each tone fades into the next, long and low, carrying both solemnity and peace. The tournament ground, quiet and tender, becomes a cradle, and in its embrace you drift, calmer, lighter, softer still. The canvas tents ripple faintly with the breeze, their ropes creaking in a rhythm steady and calm. The air moves through the open flaps, carrying with it the mingled sense of oil, leather, and the faint sweetness of hay. Inside, rows of armor gleam in dim light, carefully arranged, waiting. The silence inside the tents is almost sacred, as if the space itself asks for reverence. A knight sits upon a bench, pulling each strap of his greaves tight, then testing them with slow bends of his knee. The buckles click softly, precise, secure. He pauses after each, breathing deeply, resting between motions. His squire kneels beside him, holding the next piece of armor with both hands, offering it as though presenting a gift. Their movements are mirrored, one fastening, the other supporting both, carried out in silence, broken only by faint clinks of steel. Nearby, another squire works on a lance. He runs a hand along the smooth shaft of ash, feeling its straightness, its balance. The wood hums faintly as he taps it, sound muffled by mist. He fits the blunt steel tip carefully, ensuring it holds true. When he sets it back among its companions, they settle with a quiet wooden thrum, like reeds touching together in the wind. A horse lowers its head into a feed bag, the sound of grain shifting inside a gentle rustle. Its jaw moves slowly, rhythmically, as though in meditation. Each breath it releases fogs the air for a moment before dissolving. The squire strokes its mane with long, steady passes, the sound of hand through hair soft and soothing. The field itself seems to wait with patience. The dew has not yet lifted. The mist clings low, veiling the wooden barriers in softness. Even the earth seems hushed, its damp scent rising gently with the morning. And within all of this, the clink of metal, the creak of leather, the low sounds of animals and men, there is no hurry. Only a rhythm of care, devotion, and stillness. It is a preparation, not just for contest, but for calm. You find yourself drawn deeper into this rhythm, each sound like a thread weaving you into rest. The faint chime of armor, the soft brush of cloth, the steady breath of horses, all of it folds around you, carrying you gently into ease. The first rays of sunlight begin to pierce the mist, faint and golden, but still muted by the haze. They catch on the polished edges of helms and breastplates, scattering tiny sparks of light like stars woven into steel. The glow is soft, never harsh, and it feels as though the morning itself is bowing in quiet blessing. A knight rests on a stool, with his hands clasped over the hilt of his sword, the blade resting point down in the grass. His eyes are closed, his posture still. He is not asleep, but meditating, drawing strength from silence. The sword does not gleam in menace, it simply stands, a symbol of focus, its edge oiled, its weight steady. Around him, squires move with careful grace. One adjusts the straps of chainmail, the soft rustle of interlocking rings like rain falling in a faraway forest. Each tiny link shifting against the next creates a sound both fragile and endless. Another squire dips a rag into oil, wrings it carefully, and runs it across the surface of a shield. The cloth whispers as it glides, leaving behind a sheen that catches the growing light. The lances stand ready, tall and slender, their ashwood shafts pale in the dawn. Though built for force, they carry an aura of gentleness here. You know, as the knights do, that ash was chosen so it might break cleanly, sparing lives even in the midst of contest. To hold such a lance is to hold both power and mercy in balance. The faint clinking of armor carries across the field a ganklets brushing together. A helm lowered gently into place, a buckle tested and secured. The notes echo softly like wind chimes swaying in the distance. Each sound lingers only for a moment before dissolving back into stillness. The horses shift, tails flicking lazily, hooves pressing into damp earth with muted thuds. Their presence is grounding, their steady breaths anchoring the calm. A squire hums under his breath, the tone low, almost lost to the air, yet it merges perfectly with the rhythm of preparation. You breathe with them, in and out. Each inhale carrying the scent of grass and oil and morning air. Each exhale softening you further until the quiet becomes your own. Here, in this hushed tournament ground, there is nothing to strive for, only to rest. The sun now lifts a little higher, though the mist still veils the ground. The light feels filtered, softened, like silk drawn over a window. It touches the banners at the edge of the listgliths of crimson, blue, and gold, yet their colors remain muted, as though they too are waiting for the day to fully wake. A knight lifts his chainmail coif and settles it over his head. The rings fall with a hush, cascading in a gentle clatter, like beads spilling onto stone. He adjusts it slowly, tugging the edge into place, then pauses. His breath moves through the metal weave, a sigh that carries warmth into the cool air. Squire steps closer, fastening the last tie beneath his chin with fingers steady and respectful. Another knight bends to secure his greaves, the leather straps drawing tight with soft creaks. His armor answers with faint clicks as pieces meet, overlapping like puzzle tiles. He shifts his weight, testing the fit, and when the metal touches the ground, it sings a single, quiet note, sharp, clear, then fading into the stillness. At the far side of the field, a squire polishes a helm set upon a wooden stand. He works with small, precise circles, his rag whispering over the steel. With every pass, the surface brightens, reflecting not just the sun, but the very mist swirling around it. For a moment, the helm looks like a silver moon rising from the earth. The lances, standing tall in their rack, catch the light along their polished wood. Their steel tips gleam faintly, but they are not threatening. Instead, they seem almost ceremonial, silent guardians of the lists. The ashwood beneath your gaze looks smooth, patient, steady wood, chosen for its ability to break, to spare, to soften the hardest blows. The horses lift their heads, ears twitching toward distant sounds, not of crowds, not yet, but of life stirring in the village beyond. A distant dog barks, muffled by the morning haze. A church bell tolls faintly, its long note carrying across fields, folding into the quiet rhythm of armor, breath, and breeze. And in this symphony of gentleness, the brushing of cloth, the clinking of metal, the steady pulse of earth beneath, you find yourself drifting deeper. Carried as though on the back of calm itself, the world prepares, yet in preparation there is peace. The field lies still, yet every detail hums with quiet presence. Dew darkens the wooden railings of the lists, giving them a sheen-like polished stone. When the breeze brushes across them, droplets slide down and fall with the softest tap onto the grass below. Each sound is delicate, almost secret, as though the earth itself were whispering. A knight takes up a gauntlet, sliding his hand inside with practiced ease. The leather lining creaks faintly as his fingers stretch, and when he flexes his fist, the plates shift against one another with a muted clink. It is not the sound of violence, but of readiness, measured, patient. He lowers his hand, letting the steel rest upon his knee, as though even strength itself must first bow to silence. Nearby, a squire lays out a surcoat across a wooden chest. The fabric falls in slow folds, its color softened in the dim light. He smooths it with both hands, brushing out the wrinkles with a touch almost reverent. The cloth sighs as it moves, a sound so subtle it could be mistaken for wind passing through grass. Another squire sits cross-legged upon the ground, fitting straps to a saddle. His fingers move steadily, threading leather through brass buckles, pulling them snug, then releasing. The faint scrape of metal rings, the pull of hide through loop, the firm toggle of it is part of the quiet ritual of preparation. Even the smallest details are tended to with devotion. The horses stand calm, shifting only now and then. A tail swishes slowly, brushing against another flank with a soft, rhythmic swat. One horse lowers its head to the ground, muzzle grazing the dew-wet grass. Its breath flows outward, steaming faintly before vanishing. The sound of chewing joins the morning chorus, low and steady, like the beat of a drum muffled in wool. Above, the mist begins to thin. The edges of the clouds open just enough for sunlight to scatter through, gilding the field in pale gold. The light does not rush, drifts downward, touching armor, lances, and canvas with tender care. Every gleam is soft, as though the day itself honors this hour of peace. And you, watching, breathing, listening, feel that same golden hush settle upon you. Preparation is still unfolding, and you are part of it, welcomed by the quiet. A knight kneels before his helm, both hands cradling it, as though it were more than metals, though it were a trusted companion. The polished steel reflects the pale sky above, but the reflection wavers, softened by the mist that still lingers. He lowers the helm onto a folded cloth and begins to wipe it with slow, careful strokes. Each pass of the cloth is deliberate, and the sound faint, almost imperceptible, like the brush of wings. The lance rests nearby, leaning against the rail. Long, slender, and balanced, it has been fashioned from ash wood. This wood was chosen not for hardness alone, but for its gift of shattering cleanly upon impact. In tournaments of old, such a break was not failure but design, dispersing force and protecting the life of the rider. The knights knew that even strength required wisdom, that even competition was bound by care. The lance is not yet lifted, but its presence radiates quiet purpose. Squires pause in their work for a moment, breathing in the morning stillness. One tilts his head, listening to the faint clink of chainmail being adjusted. Another runs a hand along the flank of a horse, steadying both beast and self in a single gesture. The horse answers with a soft snort, followed by the low rumble of breath as it exhales. The rhythm is calming, grounding, as though the earth itself is breathing along with them. Far beyond the field, the village still sleeps. No trumpets, no drums, no shouts yet. The faint call of a bird perched upon a fence post. Its note is clear, solitary, then it waits before calling again. Well, why with wear wider what I... And into that silence, every small sound of preparation, the brush of cloth, the touch of leather, the shifting of hooves settles like stars into night. The knights rise slowly, not with haste, but with reverence for what is to come. Their movements are measured. Our story today continues in the hush of dawn, when the edges of the world feel softened by light. The tournament field lies wide and open, ringed by low wooden rails. Dew gathers on the grass, tiny droplets catching the first rays of sun, glinting like scattered jewels. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of ash wood freshly cut, mingling with leather and oil from the armor that waits in readiness. Knights stand beside their steeds, the morning calm reflected in their faces. They polish breastplates with circular, unhurried motions. The sound is gentle metal against cloth, a faint scrape that never grows harsh. With every pass, the armor gleams more brightly, catching the gold of early light. Yet there is no vanity in these motions, only ritual. Each stroke is a prayer, a way of settling mind and body into harmony. Da-da. A young squire carefully lays out a lance across two wooden rests. He runs his fingers along its length, feeling the smoothness of the ashwood. Once, long ago, a master craftsman chose this tree for its perfect grain. Knowing it would break cleanly in a contest, splintering harmlessly rather than piercing too deep, in that knowledge lies quiet mercy. Even in the theater of strength, gentleness finds its place. Horses shift softly, hooves tapping against stone in a regular rhythm. Their breath clouds in the cool air, white puffs dissolving quickly into the mist. A knight leans close to his horse's neck, murmuring words of reassurance that no one else can hear. The animal flicks its ears, listening, and answers with a low sigh that seems almost human in its softness. Round them, the silence deepens. It is not empty, but full, carrying with it the faint clinking of buckles being fastened, the whisper of cloth tied into place. The measured exhale of men preparing not just their armor, but their spirits. The crowd has not yet arrived. The noise of cheers, of laughter, of calling voices remains far away, locked in the hours to come. For now, there is only this, a stillness that feels like a secret kept between night, squire, and sky. And as you listen, your body too takes in this stillness. Every sound soothes you, the quiet polish, the steady breathing, the faint clink of chain. One carries you further into a safe, gentle rest, where strength is tender and calm is eternal. Our story today continues beneath the pale blush of morning sky. The tournament ground rests in patient silence, as though it too awaits the rising sun. Beyond the field, a line of tall poplar trees sways lightly, their leaves whispering with the breeze. The sound is faint, like pages being turned in a distant library, a gentle accompaniment to the day's quiet preparations. Inside a canvas pavilion, a knight sits cross-legged, his helmet resting beside him. He runs a cloth slowly over its curve, pausing to trace the dents of past contests with a thoughtful hand. Each mark tells a story, a lance that struck true, a fall taken, a lesson learned. Yet none of these memories weigh heavy. They feel instead like threads in a larger tapestry, one that weaves together courage and restraint, triumph and humility. Outside, squires adjust saddle straps, fingers working with quiet care. The buckles click softly, leather creaks faintly, and the horses shift, their tails swishing lazily. One animal lowers its head toward the earth, lips brushing the dew-wet grass, pulling gently at the morning sweetness. The sound of tearing blades is delicate, barely there, like a sigh released by the land itself. A knight lifts a lance, feeling its balance, its smooth weight. The ashwood gleams faintly, pale against the shadowed tent. He turns it slowly, watching the light slide across its length. In that motion, there is no urgency, no sharpness, only patience. For here, before the crowds and the clamor, the lance is not a weapon, but a symbol, a piece of nature shaped by human hand. Given purpose, yet still rooted in the quiet grace of the tree it once was. In the distance, a bell tolls softly from a nearby chapel. Its sound floats on the air, each note carrying with it a reminder of time's gentle passing. The knights pause, listening, their breaths falling in rhythm with the lingering chime. For a moment, the field feels sacred, as though the earth itself bows in reverence to the peace that holds sway before the storm of spectacle begins. And as you listen, you too can feel that stillness resonate. The breath in your chest rises and falls with the quiet rhythm of the morning. The hush of leaves, the chime of the bell, the muted clink of armor all combine into a lullaby, carrying you deeper, deeper into serene rest. Our story today continues as the light strengthens, spilling gold over the tournament ground. The mist thins, curling away like smoke, revealing the clean lines of wooden rails and the faint shimmer of dew still clinging to the earth. The field feels timeless and open stage, not yet filled with motion, waiting quietly as though holding its breath. Knights bend to check their armor once more. A gauntlet slides smoothly onto a hand, the fingers flexing with a faint metallic whisper. Buckle is drawn tight, leather groaning softly under the pull. Each motion is deliberate, performed not with haste, but with care, a quiet honoring of the tools that protect and serve. In the stillness, these sounds take on a soothing rhythm, like a lullaby made of iron and leather. A squire kneels, running his hand over the cool stone where a knight's sword rests. The blade is sheathed, its edge hidden, its purpose at rest. He polishes the hilt, tracing the engravings that shimmer faintly in the morning light. The patterns tell stories to tiny marks of faith, symbols of heritage, reminders that strength is always bound to something greater. The horses stand patiently, tails swishing now and then, ears flicking at the occasional bird call. Their presence is grounding, steady. One lets out a long breath, warm mist spiraling into the cool air. Another paws the earth once, then stills again, as though it knows this moment is meant to be quiet. A pause before motion. Beyond the lists, the first faint signs of life begin. A baker's cart rattles softly in the village street nearby. The smell of bread drifts faintly on the breeze, warm and comforting, mingling with the sharper scents of oiled armor and damp earth. The contrast is soothing, the reminder that contests of strength live alongside the simple rhythms of daily life. And through it all, the faint clinking of metal continues. Breastplate lifted, a chain adjusted, a spur fastened. Each sound is soft, unhurried, echoing like drops of water in a vast, still cavern. These sounds do not disturb. They calm, they settle, they reassure. And as you listen, you find yourself carried deeper into stillness. Your breath falls in time with the rhythm of preparation. Calm lingers like sunlight on your skin, warm, steady, eternal. Our story today continues as the sun lifts higher, brushing the tournament field with pale gold. Shadows stretch long and delicate across the grass, making patterns like painted strokes on a living canvas. The silence is not empty, but alive, filled with soft, deliberate sounds that soothe the senses. A knight kneels beside a lance, resting his hand upon the smooth wood. He closes his eyes, as though listening not to voices around him, but to something deeper. The lance is light in his grip, yet strong. The ash wood, carrying within it the memory of the forest it once belonged to. In its grain is the whisper of leaves, the cool hush of shaded groves, the sigh of branches swaying against the wind. To touch it is to touch both nature and craft, both strength and gentleness. Nearby, a squire dips a cloth into a bucket of water, wringing it out slowly, the droplets falling like faint rain. He wipes the dust from a polished helm, each circle of his hand leaving a brighter gleam. The faint dripping, the soft cloth sliding across metal, create a rhythm so quiet it could almost be mistaken for the sound of water flowing through a hidden spring. The horses shift, tails flicking against the growing light. Their harnesses creak softly, bits clink faintly as they turn their heads, watching the men move with quiet patience. They are part of this silence too, their presence calm, their strength contained, their energy waiting. One horse stamps once against the earth, sending a small vibration through the ground, reminding all who stand nearby that even stillness carries power. In the distance, the chapel bell rings once more, this time lighter, as though announcing the hour with a whisper instead of a call. Its tone lingers, blending with the rustle of the poplar leaves, with the faint hum of morning insects stirring. Together, these sounds weave a tapestry of calm that drapes itself across the field. And as you listen, you too are woven into that stillness. Your breath finds the same rhythm as the clink of armor, the sway of leaves, the toll of the bell. Each detail settles you deeper, reminding you that rest is not absence, but presence, a gentle awareness that everything is calm and you are safe within it. Our story today continues as the knights rise from their slow preparations. The morning has grown brighter, yet the hush remains, as if the world itself chooses to hold still for them. The tournament grounds are bathed in sunlight, yet the atmosphere is unbroken, calm and steady, as though the air itself whispers, "Not yet, not yet." One knight runs a whetstone gently along the edge of a sword, though the blade will not be drawn in contest. The motion is ritual, a way of focusing the mind. The rasp is soft, controlled, a sound not of aggression, but of care. He pauses often, wiping the blade, inspecting the sheen, then continuing each movement precise and slow. The sound is hypnotic, like the faint scrape of a quill across parchment, a reminder that strength is not only in force, but in patience. Nearby, a squire oils a leather strap, the cloth sliding smoothly across its surface. The scent of tanned hide mingles with oil, warm and earthy, grounding the senses. He holds the strap close to the sunlight, making sure every inch is cared for, every seam given its due. In this, too, there is quiet devotion. The horses, now saddled, stand quietly, their ears twitching at the occasional bird call. A blackbird sings somewhere beyond the rails, its tune clear and simple. The notes fall like drops of silver into the air, brightening the stillness without disturbing it. The knights pause, listening, and for a moment the entire field feels like a shared breath, a single heartbeat between men, beasts, and sky. A lance is lifted, tested, set back down. The ashwood glows faintly under the sun, its grain like flowing water. In the hands of the knight, it feels balanced, prepared, yet in this moment, it is not a weapon, but an instrument of ceremony, part of the unspoken conversation between tradition, craft, and silence. And as the final touches are made, armor adjusted, straps tightened, buckles fastened, the sounds grow softer still. The faintest clink of chain, the whisper of cloth against metal, the muted breath of horses. Each detail gathers together like a lullaby, carrying not tension, but serenity. And as you hear them, you too are carried deeper into rest. Each sound is a step downward, each image a doorway opening into calm. Here, in this quiet tournament, there is no rush, no demand, only stillness, waiting, eternal. Our story today continues in the wide silence of the field. The morning has ripened into soft gold, yet still no crowds gather. It is as though time itself lingers on the threshold, unwilling to disturb the hush. The knights stand like statues, their motions unhurried, their thoughts turned inward. Each man and squire part of a slow dance of preparation. One knight adjusts the buckle on his cuirass. The leather strap slides through the metal clasp with a faint click, then stills. He tugs gently, testing the fit, then releases a breath. It is the kind of sound that blends perfectly with the air, quiet, steady, natural. His squire watches, waiting to offer assistance, but the knight smiles softly, shaking his head. For in these quiet hours, even the smallest acts feel personal, part of the ritual of balance between body and armor. Another squire kneels near the fence line, tracing the rail with a damp cloth. Morning dew had left its sheen, and now he clears it away, the wood gleaming more brightly. His touch is reverent, as though the fence itself deserves care. The sound is faint, like fabric brushing across a tabletop, barely audible, yet comforting. The horses shift again, their tails swishing slowly, hooves tapping softly against the soil. One lowers its head to nuzzle the ground, the bridle jingling faintly. Another lifts its head high, nostrils flaring as it takes in the scent of the open air. They are strong, yet calm, waiting as though they too know this moment belongs to silence. A knight runs his gloved hand down the length of his lance. The ashwood is smooth, cool to the touch, its fibers whispering stories of forests long gone. The lance rests now, leaning against a wooden rest, gleaming faintly. It is not yet an instrument of contest, but an object of focus, a symbol of the day that will unfold. From the nearby chapel a second bell tolls, this one lighter, quicker, as though nudging the morning forward. Its sound lingers over the field, blending with the rustling of the poplar leaves. And when it fades, only silence remains, so full, so gentle, it presses softly against the heart. And you, too, are part of this silence now. Each sound soothes you deeper. The clink of armor, the breath of horses, the whisper of leaves. They carry you downward, gently, safely, into rest. Our story today continues as the knights pause in their careful rituals. The sun has risen fully now, warming the tournament field, yet the hush remains unbroken. It is a silence filled not with emptiness, but with presence and awareness of earth, sky, and the steady rhythm of breath. A knight sits upon a wooden bench, his helmet balanced upon his knee. He runs his fingers over its smooth curve, tracing the faint marks of past encounters. Some scratches are shallow, others deep, yet each is softened by polish, by care, by time. The knight smiles faintly as though remembering, but he does not linger on victories or defeats. Instead, he feels gratitude for the journeys that brought him here, for the lessons that shaped him. The metal catches the light, shining gently, as if reflecting not only the sun, but his quiet thoughts. Nearby, a squire spreads out a length of chainmail. The links shimmer like rippling water as he lifts them piece by piece, checking for weakness, for any link that may have slipped. The sound is delicate metal kissing metal, a faint tinkling that echoes like wind chimes swaying in a hidden courtyard. He listens closely, the music of the armor guiding his hands. The horses graze quietly at the edge of the field, their breath rising in slow clouds that dissolve into the morning air. One horse nudges another gently, pressing its muzzle against the other's neck. The gesture is affectionate, tender, a reminder that even within the world of contests, there is companionship, trust, and care. The poplar leaves stir again, whispering their soft secrets to the breeze. Their sound mingles with the faint creak of leather straps, the muted clink of spurs as knights shift their feet. Together, these notes compose a music unlike any songa, melody of patience, of stillness, of reverence. And overhead, a bird glides silently across the sky. Its wings catch the sunlight, casting a fleeting shadow on the ground below. It is a reminder that even in silence, life moves graceful and free. And as you listen, you too move inward, drifting deeper into calm. The sounds of this morning settle around you, soft, unhurried, eternal. Each one is an anchor, holding you steady in a sea of rest. Our story today continues as the quiet lingers, stretched like silk across the field. The sun rests higher now, yet the air is still cool, carrying the freshness of morning. No crowd has gathered yet, no trumpet has sounded. The silence continues to cradle every movement, every breath. One knight bends low, dipping a cloth into a bucket of clean water. The surface ripples softly, droplets pattering as he lifts it out. He wipes his armor with deliberate care, circles slow and even. The faint splash, the gentle rub of cloth against steel, echo like the memory of rain against stone. The sound is soothing, tender, transforming what might be preparation into meditation. A squire carefully arranges a set of gauntlets upon a wooden stand. He checks each one, fingers tracing the curve of steel, then tightening the straps with a quiet pull. The gauntlets gleam in the sunlight, not sharp, not harsh, but warm like a mirror catching the glow of dawn. The sound of fastening buckles is delicate, precise, a steady rhythm that settles the air further into stillness. The horses remain calm, their ears turning toward the rustle of leaves, the call of distant birds. Their presence feels grounding, as if the earth itself breathes through them. One horse lowers its head and drinks from a trough, the soft sound of water lapping blending with the faint drip still echoing from the knight's cloth. Another horse stamps once, then stands still again, calm as a stone statue. Beyond the rails, the village stirs faintly. A cartwheel creaks as it rolls over cobblestones, carrying bread still warm from the oven. The smell drifts to the field, mingling with the sharper notes of polished metal and oiled leather. The blend is strangely comforting, grounding the grandeur of knights within the ordinary rhythm of daily life. And still, the lances rest, leaning quietly against their wooden supports. Their smooth ashwood glows faintly, each grain line a silent story of growth, of tree and craftsman, of strength waiting to be tested. Yet for now, they are still resting, shining softly in the golden air. And as you listen, these sounds draw you deeper. Water dripping, cloth rubbing, leather creaking, breath rising. Each one is a gentle note in a lullaby woven for your rest. Our story today continues in the warm hush of morning. The tournament field glows with sunlight now, yet the silence remains, serene and steady. No shouts, no drums, no eager crowd. Only the patient rhythm of knights, squires, and horses preparing in their quiet ways. One knight kneels to adjust the straps of his greaves. The leather creaks softly, the buckle snaps faintly into place, then settles. He flexes his knee, testing the fit, then nods with quiet satisfaction. The act feels less like arming for contest, and more like a ritual of respect for the craft, for the moment, for the stillness itself. Nearby, a squire lifts a chain coif, its links spilling from his hands in a delicate cascade. The sound is light, like rain scattering across a rooftop, soft and fleeting. He lays it gently over a padded hood, checking each connection, ensuring no weakness lies hidden. The metal glints in the sunlight, each ring a circle in an endless pattern, patient and eternal. The horses continue their slow, grounding presence. Their tails swish lazily, their breaths puff in steady clouds, their bodies warm and solid in the morning light. One horse shakes its head, the bit jingling faintly, then falls still again. Another shifts its weight, hooves pressing gently into the earth with a sound like a heartbeat, steady, grounding, reassuring. From beyond the field, a breeze carries the faint fragrance of wildflowers. Their sweetness mingles with the earthy scent of grass, the metallic tang of polished armor, the quiet musk of horses. Together, these notes weave an atmosphere both ancient and alive, as though nature itself watches over this silent preparation. A knight lifts his lance once more, balancing it carefully in his palm. The ashwood feels alive, its grain flowing like ripples of water. He lowers it again with reverence, setting it gently against its rest. For now, the lance is not meant to strike, but to wait quiet, calm, reflecting the patience of the men who stand beside it. And you too, wait here with them. You are not rushed, not hurried. You rest in their silence, in their patience. The sounds, the clink of chain, the creak of leather, the whisper of wind soothe you deeper and deeper into a place where stillness is your companion. Our story today continues with the slow, almost ceremonial movements upon the empty field. The knights are nearly ready, though no one rushes. The quiet has a sacred weight, as if time itself bows to this preparation. One knight draws his sword, not with a flourish, but with reverence. The blade whispers as it leaves the scabbard, a smooth, steady sound that blends with the hush of the wind. He turns it slowly, watching sunlight glimmer along the edge, as if the steel were a fragment of dawn itself. With a gentle motion, he runs a cloth along its length, polishing, breathing, attentive. Then, with equal care, he slides it back into its sheath. The sound is soft, final, satisfying. Another knight adjusts the plume on his helmet. The feathers sway faintly in the breeze, their delicate rustle barely audible, like the wings of a nightbird in flight. He smiles faintly at the simple perfection of it, how something so small could bring balance to the weight of iron and steel. The squires, too, find their rhythm in silence. One brushes the flank of a horse, long strokes that lift dust into a faint golden haze before the sunlight. The horse sighs deeply, a sound of trust and ease. Another squire oils a shield's leather straps, the faint squeak of the cloth against hide rhythmic, meditative. Each sound, though small, carries presence. Each act, though simple, carries care. In the distance, sparrows dart above the wooden stands, chirping quietly, then falling silent again. Their fleeting songs add threads of life to the morning air, reminders that the world outside this field continues its own gentle music. And through it all, the breeze continues to flow, steady and kind. It drifts across your skin as you imagine yourself there, cool, refreshing, carrying scents of meadow and wood. It brushes through the feathers, stirs the grass, sways the banners, ever so slightly. The quiet tournament does not yet begin. It does not need to. Its power lies in the stillness before the crowd, before the clamor. In this place, silence itself is the contest, and peace itself is the victor. You rest within it now, sinking into the same calm as the knights, the horses, the wind. Oh, no effort, no demand, only being. Our story today continues as the field rests beneath the morning light. The grass, freshly brushed by dew, glimmers like tiny jewels scattered across the ground. Each blade bends slightly beneath the shimmer, holding the weight of water until the sun warms enough to draw it back into the sky. The knights notice these details. Though their lives are marked by duty, armor, and contest, here in the stillness, their eyes soften. One bends, touching the grass with his gauntlet, watching a drop of dew roll slowly down the metal finger, leaving a shining trail before it falls to the earth. He breathes in deeply, as if the air itself were a blessing, pure and untouched. Nearby, a squire arranges the lances upon a wooden rack. They are long, smooth, carefully balanced. Their shafts, carved from ash wood, chosen for its strength and, equally, for the way it yields. In tournament, these lances are meant to shatter cleanly, splintering upon impact rather than piercing deeply. The tradition protects, honors, and transforms battle into art. The squire runs his hand along the polished wood, feeling its cool smoothness, imagining the moment when force and purpose meet. The sound of the lances settling into place is muted, a dull, soft thud that joins the orchestra of quiet labor. Horses shift, hooves tapping gently against the soil, not impatient but aware. Their ears flick toward every subtle sound, the creak of a buckle, the sigh of leather straps, the faint scrape of steel against stone. Each sound rises, then fades, blending back into the greater stillness. The knights speak little, for words are unnecessary. The silence itself communicates each nod, each glance, each shared moment of preparation, a language older than speech. Their movements form a choreography of patience, where polishing, adjusting, and steadying becomes ritual. And above them, the sky spreads vast and tender, brushed with soft strokes of cloud. The pale blue dome arcs endlessly, and in it is the promise of time beyond this day, beyond this tournament. It cradles the field in a vast stillness, reminding all who stand upon it that they are part of something greater, something enduring. Here, in the hush before gathering, peace deepens. You can feel it, as though the silence of the field has reached into you, smoothing your thoughts, steadying your heart, and easing you into rest. Our story today continues as the knights settle further into their preparations. A steady rhythm fills the air, not hurried, not forceful, but calm and measured. The scrape of whetstone against blade, the muffled clink of armor shifting. The quiet breaths of men focus not on the noise of crowds, but on the purity of their craft. One knight sits upon a wooden stool, sunlight glinting across his polished helm. His visor rests open, allowing the cool morning air to brush against his face. He holds his gauntlets in his lap, tracing the rivets and hinges with his thumb, not out of doubt, but as an act of mindfulness. Every piece of his armor tells a story of past contests, of careful maintenance, of a devotion to discipline. A few paces away, another knight kneels beside his charger, adjusting the padded cloth beneath the saddle. The horse lowers its head, dark eyes calm, ears flicking only slightly as leather straps are tightened. The knight hums softly a tune without words, perhaps learned in youth or carried from long-forgotten fields. The sound, gentle and low, soothes the animal, and even the air itself seems to lean toward its quiet rhythm. The squires move with equal patience. They gather straps, check buckles, ensure that shields are steady upon their master's arms. Their hands are young, but their movements carry reverence. They understand that this silence is sacred, that in this hush before the tournament, every gesture is more than duty, it is devotion. The lances, still resting upon their rack, seem almost to glow in the light. Ashwood polished to a pale sheen, each shaft long and straight, each tip bound carefully. To touch one is to feel the grain of living wood, once part of a tree that reached for the sky. Now shaped into purpose, it waits for the moment of clash, the moment of splintering release. The knowledge of ash wood that it shatters instead of pierces carries with it a sense of safety, of design meant to protect rather than destroy. Around all of this, the air remains still, broken only by faint whispers. Metal against stone, cloth brushing armor, the sound of a horse shifting its weight. Together, they weave a lullaby of preparation. And as you listen, you too prepare not for contest, but for calm, for sleep, for dreams. Our story today continues as the stillness deepens, and the world feels as though it is holding its breath. The knights, squires, and horses move with deliberate quiet, and in that quiet the smallest details become vivid. A drop of dew falls from a lance and lands upon the packed earth with the gentlest sound so faint. And yet in this silence, it is enough to draw attention. Another knight notices it, and for a brief moment he smiles beneath his helm, seeing beauty in the smallest act of nature. That smile fades not into sternness, but into serenity as he returns to his patient task. The armor shines now, each plate catching the glow of the rising sun. But the shine is not for vanity, it is for respect. Respect for the field, respect for the tradition, respect for the contest itself. Each rivet polished, each hinge tested, carries with it a centuries-old ritual. Knights have always known that before the noise of the crowd, before the thunder of hooves, there must be silence. There must be patience. The squires fetch buckets of water and place them nearby. The water ripples softly, reflecting the sky, mirroring the clouds. A faint breeze drifts across the field, rustling the grass, brushing against the surface of the water. The sound is like a saya, reminder of nature's eternal rhythm, unbroken by tournaments, unshaken by time. One knight kneels, pressing a gauntlet hand into the earth. He feels the firmness of the soil, the way it holds steady beneath weight. He knows that in moments of contest, this ground will carry the charge of horses, the clash of lances, the cries of men. And yet now it is still peaceful, embracing all who stand upon it. A distant bird calls, its song echoing through the morning air. The horses flick their tails lazily, untroubled, content to wait. The knights lift their heads briefly, listening, allowing the sound to ripple through the calm before it fades again into the vastness of silence. And in that silence, there is a sense of timelessness, as though this field has existed forever in this state, dew upon the grass. Lances in their rack, armor polished to gleam, and always will. As you listen, you too feel timeless, unhurried, restful, safe. Our story today continues as the last traces of dawn melt fully into morning. The field is bathed in a golden glow, and every surface armor, wood, grass, water seems touched with warmth, yet the hush remains unbroken. This is a time before noise, a time for centering. A knight adjusts the plume upon his helm. The feathers are not extravagant, only simple, dyed in muted colors that whisper of lineage and loyalty. They sway faintly in the breeze, as though bowing to the morning itself. The knight's hands are slow, deliberate, mindful. Every motion carries patience, as if time itself has slowed to allow these preparations their due reverence. Beside him, a squire kneels to fasten a strap around a greave. The leather creaks softly, the buckle snaps into place with a faint metallic click. The knight nods gently, no words exchanged, only trust communicated. The boy's hands linger, pressing lightly against the armor as if to test its strength, and perhaps to steady his own heart. At the edge of the field, a pair of horses drink from a wooden trough. Their lips press against the water with soft ripples, their breathing heavy yet calm. The trough itself groans faintly as weight shifts against it, wood expanding in the morning warmth. Each sound is small, but in the stillness, it echoes, weaving into the tapestry of calm that surrounds the gathering. The lances remain aligned, tall and proud, their ashwood shafts glowing pale beneath the light. The squire who polished them earlier lingers nearby, watching them with quiet admiration. He knows their purpose, yet in this moment, they are not tools of clash, but symbols of craftsmanship, tradition, and restraint. Their smoothness seems almost to invite the fingertips, the grain running straight and true, like lines drawn to the horizon. And overhead, the sky stretches in endless blue. Clouds drift like sails across its vast sea, moving without urgency, guided only by unseen winds. The silence below mirrors the stillness above, and together they form a harmony that steadies the heart, eases the breath, and invites surrender to peace. Here, in this pause before the gathering, you too are invited to surrender, to rest, to dream. Our story today continues as the knights finish their careful polishing. The clinking of steel has grown even softer, less frequent now, as though the field itself asks for quietude. What remains is the glow of readiness, not loud, not boastful, but patient and steady. A knight stands and stretches his arms, the plates of his armor shifting with a muted chorus of clicks. The sound is not harsh, but gentle like stones tapped together under water, subdued and resonant. He lowers his arms slowly, savoring the strength of the gear he wears, knowing that every buckle, every hinge has been tended with care. Nearby, another knight rests with his helm removed, cradling it in his lap. He traces a finger along the etched design small flourishes carved by craftsmen long ago. Each line catches the light, and as he gazes, he recalls the generations of warriors who have worn armor before him. Their memory lingers here in this stillness, part of the fabric of the moment. The squires gather tools, placing whetstones back into pouches, folding cloths used for polishing. Their movements are unhurried, as if they too understand the weight of the silence. The field has become almost sacred, transformed from ordinary ground into a chamber of calm by the shared presence of patience. The horses, tall and steady, shift upon the grass. Hooves press into the earth with soft thuds, leaving marks that will soon vanish. Their tails swish slowly, brushing the morning air. The knights approach them now, placing hands gently upon their necks, stroking the smooth line of muscle beneath the shining coats. Each touch is both reassurance and communion, man, an animal united in a bond older than memory. The lances gleam faintly still, their shafts aligned like sentinels awaiting the day's test. One squire adjusts a lance, the wood creaking quietly against the rack. The sound is so delicate it seems almost like the whisper of a reed in the wind, and then stillness returns. Above, the clouds have thinned, allowing more light to bathe the field. Yet even in brightness there is calm. The warmth does not hasten, does not press, but rests gently upon every surface, like a soft hand laid upon the world. And so the quiet deepens, quiet that is not empty, but full of trust, of reverence, of peace. Our story today continues as the morning unfolds further, yet the stillness remains. The field seems to exist in a pause between worlds, the world of preparation and the world of contest. For now, it belongs entirely to silence. A knight lifts his shield, running a hand along its curved surface. The wood, rimmed in metal, feels firm beneath his palm. The painted crest upon it, faded from years of use, still speaks proudly of lineage and honor. He tilts it slightly, watching how the light moves across it, as though the sun itself pays respect to the emblem carried into battle. Another knight checks the leather straps at his side, pulling them taut, then loosening them slightly, listening for the creak and sigh of the material. The sound is simple, but in the quiet, it is full and echo of work, of hands that shaped and stitched long before today. He exhales slowly, satisfied, and sets his stance again. The squires kneel together near a chest, rolling up lengths of cloth, folding them neatly. Their hands move in rhythm, not rushed, not careless, but deliberate. They glance to their masters, awaiting nods of approval, and find reassurance in the silent exchange. To be part of this moment is to learn the art of patience, the lesson of calm. The horses graze softly now, lips brushing against the damp grass, tearing it with faint crunches that sound almost like whispers of paper. Each bite is followed by a slow chew, a contented sigh, the steady shift of weight from one hoof to another. Their ears flick, catching the sounds of the field, the brush of cloth, the slide of steel, the faint clinking of buckles. All is familiar, and so they remain calm. The lances stand tall still, aligned with quiet dignity. A single ray of light rests upon one, making it gleam brighter than the others, as though chosen for a moment by the sun. The ashwood holds firm, smooth, unbroken, its purpose waiting but its stillness absolute. Overhead, the sky has grown clearer, the clouds thin to wisps, pale against the expanding blue. The vastness above mirrors the openness below, both cradling the hush that holds the field. And you, listening, feel held as well, safe in the stillness, soothed by the silence, carried by calm. Our story today continues as the field glows brighter with morning's light. The air is crisp, touched by a faint breeze that drifts across the grass, leather and faint of earth, leather, and faint traces of polished steel, a fragrance that feels both ancient and grounding. One knight walks slowly to the edge of the field. His boots press into the soil with steady weight, leaving prints behind that soon soften as the breeze passes over them. He looks outward, beyond the tournament ground, toward rolling hills where the mist still clings. For a moment, he imagines the land not as a place of contests, but as a quiet sanctuary where fields stretch endlessly and time moves like water. Another knight leans against his horse, resting his cheek against the warm, muscled flank. The animal shifts, but does not move away. Instead, it lowers its head, breathing heavily, eyes half-lidded in calm trust. The knight closes his own eyes, synchronizing his breath with the horse's. As though man and beast share one rhythm, one stillness. The squires gather closer to one another, sitting quietly upon the grass. Their young hands trace patterns in the dirt, absent-minded, calm. One draws the outline of a shield, another sketches the curve of a lance. The simple act of drawing in soil connects them to the ground beneath. grounding their thoughts just as the knights ground themselves through ritual. The lances, still upon their rack, seemed to hum with quiet presence. Each shaft of ashwood holds its own memory of the tree it once was, of years spent growing beneath sun and rain, roots deep in the soil. Now shaped into long, perfect lines, they stand as symbols of transformation, nature into craft, strength into purpose. And yet, in this silence, they are only tall, still companions, waiting with the patience of trees. The faint clinking of armor continues, metal brushing stone, buckles being tested, chains shifting, but even these sounds are subdued, softened, as though the air itself wishes to keep the peace unbroken. Above, the sky expands into an endless dome, its pale blue growing deeper, the last mists fading into nothingness. The world is awake, and yet the field remains within its own bubble of quiet, an island of stillness before the tide of noise. And you, too, drift upon that island, resting safe in silence. Our story today continues as the knights draw closer together, not to speak, but to share in the stillness. They stand in a loose circle, each one resting lightly upon his lance or shield, head slightly bowed. It is not a meeting of strategy, nor of words, it is simply a gathering of presence. Their silence is a bond, as strong as steel, as grounding as earth. One knight kneels to adjust his gauntlets. The faint sound of metal sliding against leather fills the air, crisp but not sharp. He fastens the clasp slowly, then flexes his hand within the armor, listening to the muted creak of the hinge. Satisfied, he places the gauntlet gently upon his knee, as though setting down something precious. Another knight rests upon the grass itself, sitting with legs crossed, helm beside him. He tilts his head back to gaze at the sky. In the curve of his polished breastplate, reflections, ripple patches of light, fragments of cloud, hints of blue. He watches as though the sky has come down to meet him, carried upon the metal he wears. The squires move softly among them, carrying waterskins, adjusting straps, checking details. Their steps are light, careful not to disturb. They have learned the art of moving quietly, of respecting silence, of knowing that sometimes service is best offered in near invisibility. The horses, standing tall and still, flick their tails lazily. Their ears twitch at the smallest sounds, the sigh of leather, the whisper of cloth, the soft scuff of a boot against soil. But they remain calm, their bodies steady, their warmth radiating into the cool morning air. Each horse, like each knight, is attuned to the hush of the moment. The lances catch more sunlight now, shafts glowing pale gold against the deepening blue sky. One leans slightly, its tip pressing faintly into the soil. The sound is almost inaudible, a soft crunch of earth parting around wood. Even this sound feels deliberate, patient, as though the land itself welcomes the lance's rest. The silence holds, unbroken, yet alive with subtle textures, breath, movement, light, earth. It is not emptiness, but fullness, stillness that cradles all within it. And within that stillness, you too are cradled, safe, calm, unburdened. Our story today continues as the warmth of morning spreads across the field. The dew has all but vanished, leaving the grass dry and soft beneath the feet of knights and squires. The ground, firm yet welcoming, carries the weight of armor and hoof without complaint. One knight kneels upon the earth not to adjust armor, but to simply touch the soil. His fingers brush across it, feeling the cool grit, the faint roughness of stone beneath. He presses his palm flat, and in that moment, he feels connected not only to the ground, but to all who have stood here before. Every knight who prepared, every squire who hurried in silence, every horse who shifted patiently, all their memories seem alive within the soil. Another knight runs a cloth across his helm one last time. The metal glows now, bright as if newly forged, yet softened by the morning light. He holds it in both hands, studying the curves, the slits, for breath and sight.
A long moment.
He does not move, only watches the reflection of the sky ripple across it. Then he lowers it to his side, resting quietly. The squires sit together near the lances, whispering no longer, simply breathing in rhythm. Their tasks are complete, their masters prepared. They watch the line of ashwood shafts, tall and steady, each one carved to shatter in contest, yet standing here, unbroken, calm, serene. The light dances upon them, making the pale grain glow as though alive. The horses graze again, their teeth tugging at grass, the sound of tearing softened by distance. One horse shakes its mane, a soft rush of hair brushing against the air, followed by a deep sigh through wide nostrils. The breath rolls out like a gentle wind, joining the greater stillness of the field. The clinking of armor fades now. The scraping of whetstone is gone. What remains is a hush, a vast and steady calm. The silence before the gathering is complete, and all who stand upon the field seem wrapped in its embrace. And as you listen, you too are wrapped in it. The stillness of the nights becomes your stillness. The calm of the horses becomes your calm. The silence of the field becomes the silence within you. Our story today continues as the sky begins to change. The pale blue of morning deepens, softening into a richer tone. Wisps of white clouds trail slowly above, drifting as though time itself has slowed to match the silence below. The knights, though armored and ready, remain seated. Their shoulders relax, their gauntlets rest loosely upon their knees, and their eyes half closed beneath the shadow of helms. They are not yet warriors here. They are simply people, breathing, waiting. The hush between heartbeats is all that fills the space. One squire begins to hum softly under his breath. It is not a song of battle, nor of triumph, but a simple, wordless tune. The hum vibrates gently in the air, like the low sound of bees wandering near a meadow flower. The note carries peace, not tension. The knights hear it, though none respond. Instead, their stillness seems to deepen, as though the hum has lulled them into an even calmer state. The lances stand in their rack, tall and patient. Once they were trees, reaching into the sky with branches swaying in the wind. Ashwood chosen carefully, shaped and polished with precision. Crafted not to last forever, but to break cleanly, to scatter in shards that cause no harm beyond the spectacle. They stand now as symbols of a quiet reminder that not all contests were for death, but sometimes for honor or for the joy of tradition. The horses lift their heads, ears twitching at the hum. One stamps a hoof, a sharp sound against the earth, yet it fades quickly, swallowed by silence. Another shakes its mane again, strands catching the light, and the movement resembles water shimmering in a stream. The field holds its breath, can almost imagine it the ground itself listening, waiting, alive in the stillness. Every blade of grass, every pebble, every grain of soil seems tuned to the same quiet rhythm. And you, dear listener, are part of it too. Each breath you take mirrors the horse's calm sighs. Each pause between words stretches like the still pause before a dawn breeze. Here, you are both witness and participant in this hushed gathering. Our story today continues as the light shifts once more. The sun climbs slowly, but the air holds a coolness, as if morning wishes to linger a little longer. A delicate mist curls near the ground, swirling faintly around boots and hooves, softening every edge, every line of the scene. Knights sit in silence, hands brushing against polished steel, fingers tracing engravings that have been etched over years of care. Symbols of lions, falcons, and crosses glow faintly in the low light, as though the designs themselves are alive with history. They do not clink their weapons. They do not test their strength. Instead, they polish, they breathe, they wait. Nearby, a helmet rests on a stone ledge. When the wind passes gently, it produces a faint metallic ring, a tone like a bell softened by distance. The sound echoes briefly, then fades, leaving behind a sense of openness. That single note, light and delicate, joins the hum of silence, like a thread woven into a tapestry. A lance is lifted for a moment, its smooth shaft cool beneath the knight's gloved hand. He turns it slowly, watching how the light travels along the wood, glinting, then dimming, then glowing again. The ashwood feels strong but forgiving, its balance steady, its surface clean. He sets it back down gently, and the smallest tap against the rack becomes a rhythm, a whisper of wood against wood. The horses, sensing the calm, lower their heads to graze on patches of grass at the field's edge. The sound of teeth pulling at the earth is steady, grounding, ancient. Every crunch of grass and every quiet breath is a reminder of life's rhythm. Simple, unhurried, eternal. The air carries faint scents, the oil rubbed into armor, the leather of saddles, the damp grass kissed by dew. The mixture weaves together, grounding the body, anchoring the spirit, deepening the silence. And you, dear listener, can feel yourself blending into this place. Your breathing slows, your mind softens, your muscles loosen. The quiet tournament has not begun, and yet this stillness, this patience, this waiting, it is the true beginning. Our story today continues as the hush of the field grows richer. The silence is no longer an absence of sound, but a presence of calm. It is as though the very earth has chosen to breathe slowly, and all who stand upon it nights, horses, even the smallest sparrow, have agreed to match its pace.
One night.
Bends to adjust the buckle of his greave. The faint scrape of leather against metal is soft, almost like a sigh. He takes his time, tightening each strap with patient care, not for haste, not for show, but for readiness.
Oh, no.
The armor does not clang. Instead, it whispers a quiet song of preparation. On the edge of the tilt yard, another knight draws a cloth slowly across the curve of his shield. The shield bears marks of use. A scratch here, a faint dent there, stories of practice, of old encounters. His motions are slow, circular, unhurried. The fabric glides over the wood and iron rim with a rhythm like a lullaby, steady and soothing. Above them, the sky is pale, streaked with threads of silver cloud. The sun remains gentle, its light filtered, not harsh. It paints the armor with a sheen that feels less like fire and more like moonlight, cool, soft, reflective. The atmosphere holds a balance between day and dream. In the distance, the faint call of a dove rises, then falls into silence. The note is pure, simple, and fleeting, leaving the air somehow clearer after its departure. The lances, standing upright in their wooden racks, resemble a forest of pale trees. Their shafts of ash would gleam faintly, ash chosen for its strength and its kindness, its ability to break cleanly rather than splinter. Each lance is a promise that even in contest there can be care. Even in strength, there can be safety. Your mind may follow that idea like a gentle thread, that even in the challenges of life, there are ways to meet them with grace, with readiness, with gentleness. Just as these nights prepare in silence, so too can you prepare for rest, for peace, for dreams. The world grows softer with each breath, each sound fading like footsteps into sand, leaving only calm behind. Our story today continues as the morning deepens, though still it carries the gentleness of dawn. The field is touched with light, yet the air remains hushed, as though the sun itself respects the quiet work of preparation. A knight kneels beside his horse, running a hand slowly down the animal's mane. The horse exhales, warm breath clouding faintly in the cool air. The sound of that exhale is steady, grounding like the rhythm of waves meeting the shore. The knight whispers something inaudible, his voice low and kind. The bond between rider and steed is as much silence as it is sound. Nearby, another adjusts the strap of his gauntlet. The leather creaks softly, almost like the settling of an old wooden chair. He flexes his fingers, testing the fit, and then rests his hands upon his knees, letting stillness return once more. The lances stand unmoving in their rack, pale shafts of ash wood catching the light. Ash chosen because it would shatter cleanly when struck, splintering in a way that spared both knight and horse. Even in contest, there was thought for mercy, for balance. The knights know this. Their quiet polishing is not just for glory, but for care. In the distance, a breeze stirs the grass. It passes slowly, gently bending each blade, then fading away. The sound is like a sigh stretched across the earth, soft, even endless. The breeze carries the faint smell of hay and earth, of leather, warmed by sun, and of dew that still lingers in shaded corners. A pigeon coos from the beams of a nearby pavilion. Its call is soft, rhythmic, echoing gently against wood, before dissolving back into silence. Not. In that fading note, you may notice your own breathing slow, steady, calm, matching the rhythm of this quiet world. The silence grows deeper, not from emptiness, but from fullness. The fullness of peace, of readiness, of presence. Each knight polishing armor, each horse breathing steadily, each lance standing tall, they are all part of the same gentle chorus. A chorus not of noise, but of calm. And as you listen, you become part of it too. A listener among knights, a dreamer among echoes, carried into stillness by every breath. Our story today continues as the tilt yard rests in a hush that feels endless. as though the day itself wishes to linger in this space of stillness. One knight lifts a piece of his breastplate and tilts it toward the light. The polished metal catches the pale sun, and for a moment it shines like water. He wipes along the curve with slow strokes of cloth, the sound faint, rhythmic, like a whisper gliding across stone. He pauses, sets it down carefully beside him, and exhales, long, quiet, steady. The air feels lighter after the sound fades. Another knight kneels on the grass, tending to the bridle of his horse. Buckles are checked, straps smoothed, leather adjusted until it sits just right. Each adjustment brings the softest clink of metal against metal, followed by the muted creak of leather. These sounds rise gently, then vanish, like ripples dissolving in still water. The lances remain in their place, tall and straight, their pale ash wood gleaming softly. They are more than tools, they are symbols. Each one promises a contest of skill, yet each one is designed to protect, to break cleanly, to shatter rather than splinter. A reminder that strength does not have to harm, and that contests can be shaped by mercy. Overhead a crow passes, its wings cutting gently through the air. It does not call out. Its shadow glides across the field, then disappears beyond the wall of trees. Silence returns, deeper, richer, more profound. A breeze stirs, lifting the faint scent of oil and steel, leather and hay. The wind brushes along the armor, producing the faintest hum, like the low note of a harp string touched once and allowed to fade. The grass bends, then sways back upright, the sound blending with the gentle breaths of horses at rest. And you too are here. You can feel the stillness. You can sense the patience. The air around you is cool, yet soft, carrying safety, carrying peace. As you listen, the clinks and sighs, the rustles and whispers, all seem to melt into your own breathing. Slow, even, calm. The quiet tournament has not yet begun. But in truth, this waiting, this silence, this preparation, it is the heart of the story. A contest not of noise, but of calm. Our story today continues beneath the gentle light of morning, where the hush of the tilt yard feels almost sacred. The knights sit in quiet rows, their movements deliberate, their gestures softened by patience. One knight lifts his helm, turning it in his hands. The visor catches the sun in a muted gleam, not bright, but glowing, as if the light prefers to whisper rather than shout. He runs a cloth along the edges, the sound barely audible, a faint rasp, softened into comfort. The helm is then set carefully onto the grass, resting like a silver shell, waiting. Another knight holds his lance upright, inspecting the smooth ash shaft. His fingers brush the grain, feeling its strength, its evenness. Ashwood, chosen for its balance, its promise to break without harm. The thought alone carries a soothing weight. Even in collision there is mercy. Even in the clash there can be care. He lowers the lance back into its rack with a gentle tap, wood against wood, the sound round and hollow, fading like a heartbeat into the morning air. The horses shift their hooves, stamping softly into the earth. The thud is deep, grounding, followed by the exhale of warm breath. Their tails swish lazily, brushing away the mist, while their ears twitch at distant, invisible sounds. Yet still, they remain calm, as if they too feel the quiet reverence of this moment. Overhead, the sky stretches pale and wide, streaked with faint strokes of cloud. The light feels like a veil, wrapping the field in softness. Every detail, every glimmer of metal, every shadow on the grass seems slowed, softened, carried in time's gentle palm. And you, dear listener, may feel yourself sinking into this rhythm. The knights, the horses, the lances, the hustle of it gathers around you like a blanket of stillness. Each sound folds into silence. Silence folds into breath, and each breath folds into rest. The tournament is quiet, not yet begun, and here, in this moment, you are part of it. Our story today continues as the stillness of the field deepens. The world seems to pause, holding its breath with the knights, with the horses, with the waiting ground. The air carries a gentle coolness, soothing, unhurried, and each sound that rises is softened, hushed, wrapped in quiet before fading away. A knight leans over his gauntlet, sliding it carefully onto his hand. The leather creaks softly as if the armor itself is waking from sleep. He flexes his fingers, then rests them upon his knee, motionless once again. The faint shimmer of polished steel catches the pale light, then dims, as though it, too, has chosen to remain subdued. His horse shifts, its hoof pressing into the soil with a gentle thud. A breath rises from the animal's nostrils, warm, clouding faintly in the cool air. The knight strokes its neck, slow and steady, and the horse lowers its head, eyes half closed, as though lulled by the calm. The lances stand tall, their pale ash shafts like slender trees. Ashwood chosen not only for strength, but for kindness. To break cleanly, to protect, even as they shatter. They gleam faintly, reflecting the sky's light, and their quiet presence is almost meditative. Standing, waiting, steady. A breeze moves across the grass, brushing over steel and leather. It carries the scent of oil, hay, damp earth. The rustle of blades bends into harmony with the faint clink of a buckle being fastened. The sigh of a cloth sliding over a shield. These are not loud noises. They're whispers, small notes in a song of calm. Far away, a church bell tolls once, and the sound is distant, muffled by air, softened by distance. It lingers for a moment, then fades into the morning. Its echo drifts like mist, joining the silence as though it had always been a part of it. And you, dear listener, are here among them. You can feel the weight of stillness, the rhythm of patience, detailed the glint of metal, the soft breath of horses, the faint hum of breeze settles you deeper. The quiet tournament is not a contest yet. It is a waiting, a gathering, a silence you share. Our story today continues as the knights remain in their quiet rituals. The tilt yard feels less like a place of contest and more like a cloister, a sanctuary where silence has become its own kind of prayer. One knight sits cross-legged upon the grass, his sword resting across his knees. He does not sharpen it, does not lift it. He simply lets his hand trace along the scabbard's edge. The faint rasp of leather beneath his glove is steady, grounding. He closes his eyes for a moment, breathing evenly, listening not to the world outside, but to the calm that grows within. Another knight dips his cloth into a small pot of oil, spreading it carefully along the edge of his shield. The sheen glides across the surface, catching the light in soft arcs. Each stroke of the cloth makes a faint sound, almost like the brushing of pages in an old book. He hums, not a song, not even a melody, just a low tone under his breath, so quiet it seems meant only for himself. The horses sway gently, tails swishing, manes lifting in the breeze. Their hooves press softly into the earth, grounding the scene with a rhythm as ancient as time. One horse shakes its head, producing a faint clink of bridle against bit. The sound rings once, then falls away, leaving only stillness. The lances remain upright, straight and slender, their ashwood glimmering pale against the backdrop of mist. You may imagine running your fingers along the smooth grain, cool beneath the touch, balanced in weight. The thought carries with it a strange comfort, how something so strong can also be shaped for safety, for mercy. Above, the sky opens wider, pale clouds drifting lazily, unhurried. The sunlight is veiled, softened, spilling across the tilt yard in sheets of gold that do not blind but soothe. The entire space seems wrapped in a slow rhythm, a pulse that encourages calm. And you, dear listener, are part of it now. Your breath falls in time with the rhythm of this world. Each inhale mirrors the rising breeze. Each exhale mirrors the horse's soft sigh. The night's stillness, the lance's patience, the hush of morning, all of it folds into you. You are resting within the quiet tournament, where silence itself is the story. Our story today continues in the hush of the tilt yard, where the passage of time feels stretched, slowed, softened. The knights remain in their steady rhythm of care, every movement deliberate, every sound hushed into stillness. One knight lifts his pauldron and places it carefully across his shoulder. The leather straps slide through buckles with a faint creak, sound like the bending of an old wooden door, but gentler, softened. He fastens it with patience, then rests his hand over the curve of the steel, testing its fit. Satisfied, he exhales slowly, and the air feels lighter for it. Another adjusts his saddle, drawing the strap beneath the horse's belly with quiet effort. The horse shifts slightly, hooves pressing deeper into the earth. The sound is deep and grounding, echoing faintly before fading back into the silence. The knight pats its neck with a slow rhythm, and the horse lowers its head, eyes half closed, comforted by touch. The lances remain in their wooden rack, slender and tall. Ash wood, pale and strong, gleams in the muted sunlight. They wait without urgency, symbols of balanced strength that will shatter cleanly, breaking to protect. Even standing still, they tell a story of contests shaped by mercy. Overhead, a bird glides silently, wings stretched wide, makes no call, only passing shadow across the tiltyard. The shadow drifts along the ground, vanishing as quickly as it came, leaving the earth as still as before. The breeze stirs once more, brushing over armor and grass, lifting the faint scent of oil, hay, and damp soil. It carries the sound of fabric brushing against steel, faint and soothing, like the turning of a page in a book of dreams. The air itself seems to hum with calm, and you, dear listener, may find your own breath woven into this quiet. Inhale slowly, as if drawing in the morning's calm. Exhale gently, as though releasing every thought, every weight. You are not apart from the silence, you are within it. You are the night, the horse, the lance, the breeze, the field itself. The quiet tournament is not noise, not spectacle, but presence. Presence you share with every polished surface, every patient breath, every soft clink fading into stillness. Our story today continues as the tiltyard rests beneath the tender light of the rising day. The field is wide, yet it feels enclosed, as though the hush itself has built invisible walls of calm around it. Nothing here is rushed, nothing here disturbs the quiet. A knight kneels with his helm resting in his lap. His fingers trace the curve of its visor, following every line, every groove. The faint scrape of cloth against metal comes in soft, steady intervals. With each stroke, the helm gleams a little brighter, though the shine is muted by the veil of mist. He lifts it once, letting the sunlight pass over its smooth surface, then sets it back down gently, carefully, as though it were a fragile treasure. Another knight tends to his horse's tack, pulling the strap tighter, then easing it slightly, till it rests with perfect balance. The leather creaks, the buckle clicks faintly, then silence returns. He pats the animal's shoulder, and the horse breathes deeply in response. Its exhale rolls out like a soft sigh, steady and warm, vanishing into the morning air. The lances stand in their rack, ashwood shafts pale against the green of grass. They catch the faintest shimmer of light, their smooth surfaces gleaming as though touched by water. Chosen for their mercy, for their ability to break cleanly. They seem less like weapons and more like guardians of safety, holding the promise of contests that would not wound too deeply. A light breeze drifts through, moving the grass in slow waves. The rustle is gentle, a hush that spreads across the field like the soft turning of silk sheets. The sound fades into the soft clink of a knight adjusting his spur, the metal kissing stone, then quiet again. Above, the clouds shift slowly, letting a beam of golden light fall across the tiltyard. It touches the armor, the lances, the banners folded and waiting. The glow is not sharp but warm, wrapping each detail in softness, and you, dear listener, are wrapped in it as well. The silence gathers around you, patient and kind. Each breath you take belongs to this waiting moment, this gentle hush before anything begins. The quiet tournament is here, and you are inside its stillness. Our story today continues as the tiltyard remains suspended in its delicate calm. Time here is not measured in minutes or hours, but in breaths. In the faint shimmer of sunlight across polished steel, in the soft exhale of horses standing at ease, one knight bends to lift his greaves. He fastens them with slow precision, the buckles clicking faintly, leather straps creaking like quiet whispers of wood in an old hall. He pauses, feeling the weight settle along his legs, and then straightens, letting his body grow still again. The armor does not clatter its size into place. Another knight sits with his lance across his knees. He runs his gloved hand along the shaft, feeling the grain of ash beneath his palm. It is smooth, cool, steady. The lance is both strong and kind, built to shatter safely when struck. Even in the idea of collision, there is protection, thoughtfulness. The knight lowers it carefully, resting it against the rack, the hollow thud carrying only softness before dissolving. The horses shift gently, their hooves pressing into the soil with muted thuds. A tail flicks, a mane stirs in the breeze. One horse snorts, the sound round and warm, then settles again into stillness. Their calm presence is a rhythm in itself, steady and grounding, as if the earth itself is breathing with them. The air is cool, filled with scents of oiled steel, fresh hay and damp grass. The breeze weaves these notes together and carries them across the tilt yard, brushing gently against armor and banners alike. The rustling is soft, like distant parchment being turned by careful hands. Above, the clouds drift slowly, veiling the sun, then parting, then veiling again. The light shifts across the scene like water flowing, never harsh, never hurried. It paints the field with moving softness, a tapestry of shadow and glow. And you, dear listener, are part of this tapestry. Your breath falls in rhythm with the horses. Your stillness mirrors the nights. Your calm belongs to the quiet air. You are woven into the silence, into the preparation, into the waiting. The quiet tournament has not begun, but already it has become a dream you are inside. Our story today continues as the tilt yard remains suspended in its delicate calm. Time here is not measured in minutes or hours, but in breaths. In the faint shimmer of sunlight across polished steel, in the soft exhale of horses standing at ease, one knight bends to lift his greaves. He fastens them with slow precision, the buckles clicking faintly, leather straps creaking like quiet whispers of wood in an old hall. He pauses, feeling the weight settle along his legs, and then straightens, letting his body grow still again. The armor does not clatter its size into place. Another knight sits with his lance across his knees. He runs his gloved hand along the shaft, feeling the grain of ash beneath his palm. It is smooth, cool, steady. The lance is both strong and kind, built to shatter safely when struck. Even in the idea of collision, there is protection, thoughtfulness. The knight lowers it carefully, resting it against the rack, the hollow thud carrying only softness before dissolving. The horses shift gently, their hooves pressing into the soil with muted thuds. A tail flicks, a mane stirs in the breeze. One horse snorts, the sound round and warm, then settles again into stillness. Their calm presence is a rhythm in itself, steady and grounding, as if the earth itself is breathing with them. The air is cool, filled with scents of oiled steel, fresh hay, and damp grass. The breeze weaves these notes together and carries them across the tilt yard, brushing gently against armor and banners alike. The rustling is soft, like distant parchment being turned by careful hands. Above, the clouds drift slowly, veiling the sun, then parting, then veiling again. The light shifts across the scene like water flowing, never harsh, never hurried. It paints the field with moving softness, a tapestry of shadow and glow. And you, dear listener, are part of this tapestry. Your breath falls in rhythm with the horses. Your stillness mirrors the nights. Your calm belongs to the quiet air. You are woven into the silence, into the preparation, into the waiting. The quiet tournament has not begun, but already it has become a dream you are inside. Our story today continues in the hush of the tilt yard. Here, time feels like a ribbon, slowly unfurling, each moment sliding seamlessly into the next, without rush, without pressure. A knight kneels near the edge of the field, resting his helmet upon his lap. His hands, steady and sure, polish the metal with a square of soft cloth. The strokes are unhurried, circular, like ripples spreading out upon a calm pond. The faint clink as he adjusts the helm is muted by the stillness. The surface of the helmet gleams brighter with each pass, until it seems to catch the light of the sky itself, reflecting clouds in silvery shimmer. Nearby, another knight adjusts the straps of his gauntlet. The leather sighs as it tightens, the buckles whisper closed, the sound vanishing into the larger silence. He flexes his fingers once, the quiet movement more like a ritual than a task, a small gesture of readiness beneath the wide sky. Between them, the lances rest in their wooden rack. They stand upright like trees in a grove, tall and slender, their ashwood polished to a pale glow. Even here, before the crowds, before the noise, they seem part of nature, an echo of forests long past, now shaped into instruments of tradition. Their purpose is strength, yet their presence is serenity. The air carries the fragrance of earth warmed gently by sunlight, mingling with the faint scent of iron and oil. A bird alights upon the wooden rail, head tilting, eyes bright, before fluttering softly away, wings beating in quiet rhythm like the turning of invisible pages. The tiltyard itself feels like a cathedral without walls, the sky its ceiling, the breeze its hymn. Nothing shouts, nothing presses. Instead, every sound that exists is small, tender, meant for rest. The hush of wind, the muted creak of leather, the patient exhale of a horse. And you, dear listener, drift deeper into this silence. The stillness moves into you, spreading warmth through your body, gentleness through your thoughts. Each detail the glint of armor, the flick of a horse's ear. The faint knock of lance against wood carries you further into a dream where calm is endless. Our story today continues with the quiet labor of preparation. Each moment drawn out, slow and deliberate, like ink spreading through parchment. One knight, seated upon a low bench, takes his time to run a whetstone along the edge of his sword. The stone whispers as it glides, a faint rasp that is not harsh, but rhythmic, soothing, like the sound of distant rain upon a tiled roof. The knight does not hurry. Each stroke is a meditation, a prayer offered in steel. Between motions, he pauses to breathe, and in his breath, you can almost hear gratitude, patience, a calm acceptance of the day to come. Beside him, another knight kneels at his saddle. His hand brushes the leather, smoothing it, checking every strap, every buckle. The saddle smells faintly of tanned hide and warmed earth, a scent both grounding and ancient. His fingers linger upon the stirrup, as though it is more than wood and leather is, though it is memory itself, carrying stories of every ride, every tilt, every return to the stable. The horses shift softly, their hooves pressing into the dust with gentle thuds. One exhales, sending a cloud of warm breath into the cool morning air. The sound is like the sigh of a trusted friend, deep and contented. A tail swishes lazily, brushing away the small gnats, yet even that movement seems slow, unhurried, in harmony with the silence. And there, set aside upon a wooden table, lie the lance's long, pale shafts of ashwood. Their tips, meant for splintering, glimmer faintly. Medieval carpenters once chose ash because it broke cleanly, sparing both horse and rider from jagged harm. To hold such a lance is to hold centuries of wisdom shaped into wood. Yet here, before the cheers, they are not weapons. They are simply trees, standing tall, still remembering the forest, their silence more eloquent than any words. The sky above remains vast and clear, painted with the pale blue of early day. A single wisp of cloud drifts lazily, unbothered by time, unbothered by purpose. The tiltyard, the knights, the horses, everything rests within this slow moment, where all things are calm and all things belong. And you, drifting gently, are part of this stillness. The clink of metal, the sigh of leather, the hush of the breeze carries you deeper, softer, further into peace. Our story today continues with the stillness before the world awakens fully. The tiltyard is cradled in silence, broken only by the smallest of sounds, sounds that do not disturb but soothe. Like the tender notes of a lullaby only the earth itself could compose. A knight dips a cloth into a basin of water and begins to polish the face of his helm. The droplets glisten in the sunlight, sliding down the steel-like pearls, leaving behind a softened gleam. The rhythm of his hand is unhurried, circular, patient. You can almost hear the whisper of cloth against metal, steady and calm. A sound that feels like time itself slowing to let you rest. Nearby, another knight adjusts the padding of his gambeson, pulling the laces gently, not to tighten but simply to test.
Ow.
The faint creak of linen threads blends with the murmur of wind through banners overhead. The banners move only slightly, brushing one another in a sound like gentle fabric sighing, a harmony of patience and peace. The ground beneath them smells of straw and faint ash from a fire long cooled. That scent, rustic and grounding, mingles with the sharper tang of polished iron. Yet instead of harshness, these scents together create balance, the earth and the forge, the natural and the shaped, meeting in still harmony. Farther back, in the shadows of the stable, a squire oils a set of gauntlets. He hums under his breath, a tune so low and gentle, it feels more like a vibration in the chest than a melody. His touch is tender, as though the gauntlets are more than armor, they are companions, deserving of care and reverence. The faint clink as he sets one down upon the wooden bench is crisp, yet delicate, like a chime struck in a quiet chapel. And all the while, the lances remain stacked carefully nearby. Smooth shafts of ashwood wait, silent, their weight resting against one another in perfect balance. They will shatter in contest, yes, but now, in this moment. They are whole, serene, and untouched, still dreaming of branches swaying under forest skies. The entire yard feels like a breath held, not with tension, but with tranquility. Every motion is slower than time itself, and every sound, no matter how small, seems to ripple outward, carrying you further into quiet, into rest, into calm. Our story today continues in that hour before movement begins, when every figure within the tiltyard seems carved from patience itself. One knight sits upon a low stool, his armor resting beside him in neat order, lifts a single vambrace, running his fingers along its curve, checking the leather straps, smoothing away a spot of dust. The touch is not hurried, it's reverent. The faint creak of leather, the soft scrape of cloth, the gentle exhale of his breath all blend into a soundscape that soothes, unbroken and quiet. Another knight, standing in the open air, raises his shield into the sunlight. The metal rim catches a glimmer of gold, and the painted surface glows faintly. He tilts it this way and that, watching how the light slides across its curve. The shifting brightness plays like water flowing over stone, slow and mesmerizing. The sound of his boots shifting upon the earth is subtle, grounding, steady like footsteps in a dream where there is no need to hurry. At the far edge of the field, a squire brushes a horse's mane. Each stroke is long, careful, and even. The horse exhales with a deep, contented breath, the sound low and warm, filling the air like the sigh of a hearth on a cool morning. The brush moves again, whisper, pause, whisper like the rhythm of waves lapping against a shore. Above them, the sky stretches wide and unbroken, the banners on the poles barely stirring. The wind that brushes against them is not a gust but a caress. Cloth folds shift gently, creating the sound of fabric rustling, soft as leaves in summer. That sound drifts down, mingling with the clink of metal and the brush of leather. The lances still wait. Their ashwood shafts stand upright, pale against the darker background of the tiltyard wall. Long, elegant, unbroken. Each one crafted to shatter cleanly. But for now, they remain whole, silent, and gleaming faintly where sunlight strikes their polished grain. In their quiet presence, they are like tall reeds by a still pond watching, waiting yet tranquil. And so, in this place of hush, the tournament has not begun. It lingers in a state of rest, where every sound is gentle, every movement is slow, and every detail is a lullaby guiding you into deeper ease, deeper calm, deeper rest. Our story today continues with the morning still unfolding, each sound falling softly into the silence like a pebble dropped into a clear pool.
A knight bends low,
Fastening the straps of his greaves, the buckles click faintly, not sharp, but delicate, as though even the smallest metallic sound respects the quiet of this hour. His gloves brush against the steel, leather against iron, a hushed rasp that fades as quickly as it arrives. He pauses for a moment, resting his hands on his knees, and simply breathes slow, deliberate, almost meditative. Another figure, an older knight, sits nearby on a wooden bench, sharpening the edge of his sword. The stone glides across the blade with a rhythm that is steady but not hurried. She, each stroke is gentle, more a caress than an edge-making. He does not press hard. He allows the blade to sing its soft metallic note with every pass. The sound is like rain tapping lightly on a roof, soothing, unbroken, endlessly repetitive in a way that eases the mind. Behind them, a pair of squires gather lances. They lean them carefully against the wooden rack, the tips resting neatly together, the shafts settling with the faintest of knocks. The ashwood feels smooth under their palms, cool from the morning air, its surface whispering with memory of the forest it once belonged to. The boys smile quietly at one another, not speaking, their movements respectful, as though they too sense this hush must not be disturbed. A horse stamps softly, then lowers its head to graze on sparse grass at the yard's edge. The sound of teeth pulling gently at stalks, the steady chew. The low breath from its nostrils all blend into the atmosphere like background notes in a lullaby. Another horse shifts weight, hooves pressing into the dirt with a muffled thud, steady and grounding. Overhead, the sky is a pale canvas, touched with drifting clouds. The banners sway gently, their fabric moving like sighs. The faint snap of thread, the soft flick of fabric ends brushing against the pole, echo faintly and fade again. And you, listening here, find yourself drawn further into this rhythm of quiet preparation. Every stroke of a whetstone, every brush of a mane, every clink of armor is part of a greater music, the music of stillness before life stirs. It guides you deeper into ease, as though you too are seated within the tilt yard, breathing in the calm, wrapped in the peace. Our story today continues, as the tilt yard remains wrapped in its gentle cocoon of silence. A young squire crouches near a pile of straw, carefully sorting pieces to line beneath a saddle. His fingers move slowly, pulling strands apart, arranging them with patient care. The dry stalks whisper as they shift, a sound like paper turning, light and delicate. He pauses now and then, brushing dust from his hands, and the faint patter of chaff falling to the ground is almost too soft to hear. Beside him, another squire runs a damp cloth along the length of a lance. The ashwood gleams faintly, its pale grain catching a sliver of sunlight. Each stroke of the cloth is smooth, unhurried. The wood responds with a faint, hollow tone, subtle, soothing, as if the lance itself is sighing into readiness. He leans it carefully back into the rack. The faint knock as it rests against its companions is crisp, but not loud, more like the quiet tap of china being placed upon a shelf. A knight adjusts his cuirass, the steel plates glinting as light moves across their curves. The clasps click faintly, muted by layers of cloth beneath. When he shifts his shoulders, the armor sighs, a low metallic creak. Not jarring, but grounding, like the groan of an old wooden beam in a quiet house. He stands tall, then slowly lowers himself back to the bench, content simply to feel the weight settle comfortably around him. In the corner, an older man oils the edge of a shield. The rag moves in slow arcs, leaving a sheen that makes the colors richer, the patterns brighter. He hums a faint tune as he works, one with no beginning and no end, just a gentle rise and fall, like a lullaby remembered from childhood. The shield catches a beam of light, and the glow seems to drift across the yard, like a warm candle's flame. Above it all, the sky holds steady. Clouds drift lazily, the banners stir only slightly, and the breeze that moves through the space is tender and unassuming. It carries the faint mingling of scents, leather, metal, straw, grass, an aroma that feels both earthly and timeless, as though this quiet moment has always existed, waiting to be found. And here, within this stillness, you find rest. The careful movements, the muted sounds, the softness of the air they fold around you, guiding your thoughts into silence, your body into calm, your spirit into peace. Our story today continues as the morning deepens, though the quiet remains as tender as ever. A knight kneels upon the ground, a small brush in his hand. He gently dusts the crest upon his helmet, careful not to mar its shape. Each stroke is light, feathery, and the faint sound of bristles against steel is like a whisper carried on the wind. He pauses now and then, leaning back to admire his work, his breath steady and deep, merging with the stillness all around. Nearby, a young page polishes the edge of a dagger. The blade glints faintly, catching the light like a shard of morning dew. His motions are small, repetitive, and soothing. The rasp of cloth against metal is soft, not harsh, a sound that fades almost as soon as it appears. When he sets the dagger down upon the wooden bench, it lands with the faintest of clinks, a note so quiet it feels more like a lullaby than a sound. A horse tethered in the shade shifts slightly, hooves pressing into earth with muffled firmness. Its tail swishes once, brushing the air with a soft swoop, followed by the deep, slow sound of breath leaving its chest. The animal lowers its head, eyes closing halfway, content to drift in the same calm that fills the tilt yard. Farther along, two squires carry a small chest of tools. The wooden box creaks faintly as it moves, the metal hinges giving a low sigh. They set it carefully upon the ground, and the thud is cushioned by earth, muted, almost gentle. When they open the lid, the tools within clink lightly, each sound ringing like distant bells in a quiet valley, bright but soft, vanishing almost instantly into the still air. The lances, lined neatly in their rack, stand unmoving, their pale ash shafts, once trees stretching toward the sky, now rest here as silent sentinels. Their grain catches the light, and they gleam faintly, like ivory touched by dawn. Though their purpose is sharp, their presence in this moment is serene, embodying patience and quiet strength. Above, the sky continues to watch. Clouds drift in slow procession, banners stir with delicate rustles, and the breeze that brushes the yard is cool, carrying the scent of straw and leather. Nothing hurries, nothing breaks the stillness. And so as you listen, you sink deeper into this calm, every sound a lullaby, every detail a hand guiding you gently toward rest. Our story today continues in the gentle hush before the world stirs. A knight bends low to tighten the straps of his sabatons. The faint click of buckle against steel is soft, delicate, a sound that vanishes almost as soon as it's heard. He tests the fit with a slow flex of his toes, the leather beneath sighing faintly in answer. His movements are careful, unhurried, as though the act itself is a form of meditation, grounding him in this calm moment. Not far away, another knight smooths a cloth across his breastplate. The strokes move in wide, even circles, the fabric whispering against metal. Each pass leaves a brighter shine, the armor reflecting the pale light of the morning sky. When he pauses to breathe, the soft sound of his exhale mingles with the faint hum of a bee drifting nearby, the two notes blending into one quiet harmony. A squire kneels to check the bindings on a lance. His fingers trace the smooth ashwood, pausing over knots in the grain. The lance is sturdy, whole, yet in his hands it feels almost alive, cool and firm, carrying the quiet memory of the tree it once was. When he rests it back in its place, the shaft knocks gently against its neighbor, the sound bright, yet brief, like a pebble touching water and then vanishing. The horses, waiting patiently, shift in slow rhythm. One shakes its head, bridle chiming faintly, metal against leather, creating a soft tinkling sound. Another exhales through wide nostrils, the warm breath clouding in the cool morning air, before dissolving into nothing. Their tails swish lazily, brushing against the silence like brooms sweeping gently across a wooden floor. From the stables drifts the faint creak of wood as a door shifts in its hinges. The sound is deep, mellow, almost like the low groan of a cello string plucked in stillness. It fades quickly, leaving the air empty again, peaceful. Above, the banners stir. Fabric flutters lightly. No rush, just soft folds, moving against one another, creating a whisper that joins the chorus of quiet. The sky glows pale, its light diffused, as though even the sun has chosen to rise gently, carefully, respecting the stillness of the yard. And here, within this hush, you too are part of the calm. Every sound is soft, every movement unhurried, and the silence between them draws you deeper. Steadying your breath, easing your mind, inviting you to drift further into rest. Our story today continues, still nestled in the stillness of morning. A knight lifts his gauntlet, turning it in the light. The polished steel catches the glow of dawn, glimmering softly like a pool of silver water. He slides his hand into it, the leather lining whispering against his skin. When the clasps close, they make a faint click, subtle, precise, not jarring, but satisfying. He flexes his fingers once, the armor responding with a muted creak, and then rests his hand calmly upon his knee, still as stone once more. Near him, a squire dips a rag into a pot of oil and smooths it along the edge of a sword. The blade drinks in the light, glowing brighter with each pass. The cloth glides in slow, careful motions, creating a hush-like fabric sliding across glass. The squire hums under his breath, a soft and tuneless murmur, rising and falling gently like a lullaby only he can hear. The horses, waiting quietly, shift again in the background. One snorts softly, a sound low and warm, like a sigh from the earth itself. Another stamps a hoof against the dirt, steady and grounded, the muffled thud echoing gently in the silence before fading back into stillness. Their calm presence anchors the yard, a reminder of strength at rest. A page gathers loose straps and buckles, laying them neatly upon a cloth spread across the ground. Each piece touches down with a delicate clink, small chimes in the symphony of quiet. He arranges them carefully, one by one, his concentration steady, his movements gentle. The order he creates feels like part of the piece itself, every object given its place, every sound falling where it belongs. Overhead, the wind stirs once more. The banners ripple faintly, the fabric brushing against itself with a sigh. The poles creak in their sockets, wood shifting softly, as though even the structures of the yard are breathing in time with the stillness. And all around, the silence is not empty, but full of care, full of calm, full of the patience of those who wait. The tilt yard is a vessel of quiet, each sound within it flowing like water into a stream, carrying you with it, pulling you gently, inevitably, toward rest. And you, listening here, are part of it. The knights, the squires, the horses, the banners all move in harmony with your breath, slow, easy, unbroken. Our story today continues with the stillness deepening, as though time itself has slowed to honor the quiet. A knight sits cross-legged upon the ground, his helmet resting on a folded cloth before him. With a soft brush, he sweeps away the faintest trace of dust. The bristles whisper against the steel, light as a feather across glass. Each stroke leaves behind a sheen until the helm gleams like a star caught in daylight. He pauses often, not from weariness, but simply to breathe too. Let the silence surround him, to feel the weight of calm. Nearby, a squire kneels over a pair of greaves, testing the leather ties. He pulls gently, the threads creaking faintly. Their sound like an old book opening. When he lets them fall slack, the whisper of loosened cords is soft, vanishing quickly into the larger hush. He repeats the motion, not hurried but patient, as though the act itself is a quiet prayer. The horses shift in their stalls, their movements slow, deliberate. One leans against the wooden rail, the timber creaking with a mellow sigh. Another brushes its muzzle against the hay, teeth pulling softly at the stalks. Each chew is steady, rhythmic, blending seamlessly with the muted sounds of armor and leather. Their presence is grounding, their calm, a mirror of the stillness within the yard. From the far corner comes the sound of a whetstone gliding along a blade. She. The rhythm is unbroken, soothing, each pass leaving behind not just sharpness, but quiet music. The sound is like rain upon stone, steady and gentle, carrying you deeper into ease. Above, banners flutter faintly, fabric stirring with the smallest of breezes. Their folds rustle like silk gowns moving through a hall, faint and graceful. The poles creak softly, wood adjusting to the wind, each note resonant and low. The lances remain stacked neatly in their rack, silent, their ashwood shafts glowing faintly where sunlight brushes them. They stand unmoving, yet their presence hums with patience, as though they are guardians of the silence itself. And you, here within this moment, are drawn ever deeper. Every sound, the brushing of bristles, the chewing of hay, the whisper of leather is a thread in the tapestry of calm, weaving around you, holding you still, steady, and at peace.